Hello, and today I'm going to teach you how to play Saul, the Sun Goddess herself, the Fire Queen in Divine Knockout, and the chibiest character out there. The first thing we're going to start off with is her Divine trait. It's going to be Explosive. Directly hitting with Fireball and Combustion deals an additional 15% knockback and grants 8% ultimate charge. This, in my opinion, is the best Divine trait personally for Saul. There is no other option. If you choose another option, you're crazy. Next, we're going to start with the minor traits. The first minor trait we're going to go with is going to be the Floor is Lava. Just like kids, we're playing the same thing in Divine Knockout. The Floor is Lava. Fireballs create an additional 4 fire pools. This is very necessary for the other minor traits we're going to use later down the line. And the next one is going to be Line of Fire. Combustion deals up to an additional 30% knockback based on proximity of the target. Trust me when I say this is going to come in super handy when you're playing Saul. It will give you that power you need to knock out your opponent with your fiery magic. Next up, we have one of my favorite minor traits. It's going to be Healing Flame. Walking over Fire Pool consumes it and heals 1 vulnerability. Trust me when I say this is super useful. It couples perfectly with the Floor is Lava. Why it's so great is because you're able to heal 1 vulnerability. Yes, it does not seem like a lot, but if you have the pure patience and you're in a simple 1v1, you can outlast almost anybody besides Thanatos. I mean, he has the biggest healing in the game, but more or less, you will be able to sustain yourself with pure patience and kiting around, and Saul is great at kiting and keeping distance from her enemies. However, do note, you're most likely going to be using this every once in a while to heal up. You're not always going to be able to heal up with Fireball, but it's always nice to have. Next up, we're going to go with Greater Blessings. Now, Saul is one of the only characters I use her kit all the way through, even when Lesser Blessings were part of the game. So for her Greater Blessing, we're using Saul's Temper. Deal an additional 15% damage to the last enemy that knocked you out in a round, or deal an additional 10% damage if you have not been knocked out yet in a round. So either way, you're going to gain stat benefits from this, and you're going to be doing massive fiery damage to your enemies, not allowing them to recover. Now that we've covered Saul's greatest fire build, now we're going to go into the ultimate part of the video where we talk about the tips and tricks that are going to make you the ultimate fire queen herself. The first one we're going to talk about is the most important tip for Saul. It's going to learn how to use Dissipate. Now, how do you use this exactly? You need to learn how to cancel it. So let's say you're using Dissipate and you're either landing close to a character or going right through a character to add that extra burn damage, and you still have a way to go. You simply press jump or spacebar, which will cancel it, allowing you to now turn it into an air light, into air heavy, or just an air heavy to do some epic damage with Saul. Now, understanding how to cancel it is the main part of this tip, so make sure you know that if you're going out with Dissipate, clicking spacebar or jump will allow you to cancel it, and then you can follow up with some nice attacks, sometimes even use a fireball. Now, the next tip here is going to be Fireball. Fireball is going to take you a long time to learn how to use, since the trajectory is totally different to most projectiles in Divine Knockout. It can be super powerful, however, you know how I probably use it. I do throw it on my opponents early on, or to cancel their attack with it, but if the situation calls for it, I will literally throw that right beneath me and just heal up from all that damage. Now note, with Fireball, you can knock people out if they're close enough to the edge of the arena or high enough vulnerability. Now for 2 tips with Combustion. Now this is very important. We're going to first tell you how to use it to go to full effectiveness. Now, let's say you're in the sky. You can automatically cast Combustion, and by the time you reach the ground, if you time it right, you will explode. That's one of the best ways to use it. So you can use the Separate, go in the sky, and drop yourself with Dispersion, or simply, let's say you get knocked up in the air or back by your opponent and you're coming in, and you see the opportunity, you will click Combustion, allowing you to build up that fiery explosion, or the fire fart as I like to call it, and then you will drop down and boom, knocking them back. Now remember, one of our minor traits, Line of Fire, allows Combustion to deal up to an additional 30% knockback based on the proximity of your targets. So can you imagine how powerful this can be in the game with Saul? Now, for the next tip, which is obvious with Combustion, if you do use this, it's going to drop you down. So I have had it happen to me many times, and I know I've seen other Saul players do it, where they're coming in, they use it too early, and it just drops them into the bottom of the arena, and they get eliminated out. So be careful when you're going to use this ability. And note, if you're using it on the ground, make sure you have enough time to charge it up before using it, because if you use it too early and the enemies are close, they'll easily be able to interrupt it. You are very vulnerable. Now, for the last tip of this video, which is going to be an awesome tip on her ultimate, Supernova, note that when you're using Supernova, you don't actually have to land your giant spirit bomb on the big circle on the ground. It will still hit people out of the arena or do some massive damage to them and knockback. when you just literally target them in the same trajectory they're coming into. As you can see here on screen, I'm going to give you some nice examples. This is a beautiful way to use Supernova. And that completes this guide for Saul. I hope this helps you become a professional Saul player, as Saul is one of the greatest champions in the game in my personal opinion. Also, don't forget, she has the best level 20 skin in the entire game. GG.